Alright guys, what's going on? This is going to be a fun video. I normally don't really make these type of videos, but I thought I probably should now because of what's going on and how stupid society is acting right now after the death of George Floyd. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you guys all know who George Floyd was. He was that African American that was using a counterfeit $20 bill to purchase cigarettes, so he got arrested for it. But as he was being handcuffed, or after he was being handcuffed rather, he was being suffocated by an officer because he had his knee on his freaking neck, which honestly fucking sucks, and that's pretty fucking retarded. So anyway, he died, and this sparked a massive outrage. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you know who he is, but I'm going to talk about the response to all of this, and yeah, first of all, I'm going to talk about all this looting and rioting that has taken place right after he has died and probably is still going on right now. So yeah, anyway, we had all these people going looting and rioting because they were upset over the death of George Floyd, and I can understand why he'd be upset. He was killed for the wrong reason. He shouldn't have died that way. And that's pretty inexcusable to murder a man like that, but I still think all this bullshit rioting and looting, like I said, it's freaking bullshit. And I think a lot of people are just kind of using this as an excuse just to act like a bunch of fucking animals and do whatever the fuck they want and stuff like that. So I don't really think this is legitimate, and I don't think they are actually proving a point other than them being freaking rats, obviously. I'm sorry, but they actually are. I know Martin Luther King did say something about rioting being a way to express your anger, something for people to hear how you're upset, but I don't know. You had these stores like Walmart, Target, CVS, Best Buy, Walgreens, etc. that were either looted or being fucking destroyed. So the reason why this is kind of angering is because these businesses did not ask for this at all. They were just kind of a target just because there were people being mad over this. And like I said, I understand why you're mad, but it's just pretty fucking inexcusable. The second thing I want to talk about is a whole incident regarding Rayshard Brooks, the guy that fell asleep in a Wendy's drive-thru because he was under the influence of alcohol. And when the cops came and arrested him, he was the one who was resisting arrest and fighting the cops, as well as pointing a taser at one of them. So the cops shot at them, and then everybody was freaking out and stuff, and they burned down the Wendy's. Now, unlike a lot of other people, I don't really feel too sorry for Rayshard Brooks because he was the one who was still fighting the cops and punching one in the face. And whether him being shot was deserved or not, it probably wasn't, to be honest, because he didn't have a deadly weapon. He was still the one who put himself into that position, as well as stealing a taser and pointing at the cops. And I also did some research and found out he was in trouble for child abuse, domestic abuse, and a bunch of other charges that you can look up as well. And you know what? The cops were also pretty friendly with Brooks. It was just until he was resisting arrest and punching a cop in the face, as well as stealing a taser to use it against him. That's when the cops acted when they did. But like I said, they were just friendly with him. As soon as they pulled him over, they were making conversation together and stuff like that. It was just when Brooks started acting out, and that's when he got shot. I'm not saying for sure that he should have gotten shot, but yeah, like I said before, he's the one who put himself in that position. And going back on his criminal record, a lot of people like to say, oh, these people that committed crimes, they made mistakes and stuff like that, but committing a crime is not really a mistake. It's illegal, against the law, and it's wrong. So I don't know why people are thinking that. Making a mistake is turning down the wrong street, buying the wrong kind of food. And then another example of a mistake is a rioter and a looter. So yeah, now Rayshard Brooks is dead, and everybody's sobbing about him and wanting to blame this whole issue on police brutality and police violence, even though Brooks was the one who was acting violent while he was being arrested. And now the rioters burnt down the fucking Wendy's, so go fucking figure. Alright, the third thing I want to talk about is this whole Defund the Police motto, which I'm pretty sure you probably would have heard on the news or in the media, or if you've been protesting, you probably are aware of signs that says Defund the Police. And what this basically means is that For those of you who don't know, it basically means that police departments will lose funding, they'll lose taxpayer money, and money will go to something else like schooling and mental health and stuff like that. And the reason why this is a problem is because policing is essential, just because there are fucking bad thug cops out there that are fucking dirty. That doesn't mean the whole police department should have to suffer. And of course you might be asking yourselves, well, why should I care? And here's the reason why you should care. If the police receive little to no funds, this could affect police equipment, police training, car gas, and stuff like that, which could affect an emergency that you could be in. And of course we got morons that want to abolish the police altogether, and I'm not really going to explain why that's wrong, because that should be self-explanatory and basic common sense. You could go look up what happened to Chaz and see what happened there. Looks like a fucking monkey pit. So I recommend go looking it up. Now here's the thing that doesn't really make sense. People are being mad about black people being stereotyped when they're literally encouraging the stereotype of police. I mean, how are you going to solve racism by stereotyping another specific type of people? Alright, the last thing I'm going to talk about some other issues and some other changes that's been occurring since the death of Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. The first is statues being torn down. You've got statues of Frederick Douglass, George Washington, Robert E. Lee, and Christopher Columbus, and other statues being knocked down by people who are offended by them and want to use this opportunity of what's been going on to pull down statues using ropes. I mean, yeah, of course some of these statues represent unlikable people like Robert E. Lee and Christopher Columbus, but that's not really the point. The point is that the statues are still historical and they still shouldn't be messed with, because the thing about history is that it's not meant for you to like or hate. It's meant for you to learn from it and do better in the future. For example, let's look at slavery, which was part of American history. Now, slavery existed, but does that mean we have to like it? No. But it's still there as a constant reminder to do better in the future. And there's definitely no excuse for knocking down the statue of Frederick Douglass, because he was a good guy and he was a slavery abolitionist. So whoever knocked down the frickin' statue or whatever people did are just uneducated fucking morons who should start learning history more before they decide to make a judgment and knock down a physical representation of history. So to summarize what I said is that breaking down statues is unjustifiable because it still is a physical representation of history and should not be messed with, whether you like it or not, because like I said before, history is not meant for you to like or hate. Now we're going to talk about some specific brands that have had to been changed because of this whole movement, such as the Aunt Jemima logo, which was basically a syrup company, but now they want to change the name and a logo because apparently depicting an image of a black person is somehow racist, and that goes with the same thing as Uncle Ben's rice. They want to change the picture, and I think they want to change the name as well, which I really don't get, because you are creating diversity when you're including people of color on packages and stuff like that. And one more logo change is the Washington Redskins, and up until recently the CEO had no plans on changing the name and logo, but I think it was on July 13th which he finally decided to make the change, and which I find ridiculous, because I don't think there's really a lot of Native Americans that are offended at that, and I think it should be an honor to have a logo of your tribe or your heritage, but you know, who the fuck am I to say that? So what the hell? Alright, so now we're going to talk about some YouTube drama with a specific YouTuber that's been affected by this whole thing. And no, I'm not talking about the annoying pedophile Shane Dawson who did some cringy ass blackface video skits in the past. I'm actually going to be talking about Jenna Marbles. Now, I'm going to be quite honest, I never really followed Jenna, but when I found out she was stepping down from the platform because of her supposed racist and sexist videos, and when I also looked into the reasons, I was actually pretty pissed off. And the reason why I was pissed off is because this so-called racism and sexism is just illegitimate bullshit. First she goes over her blackface video, which wasn't even real blackface, it was just her doing an impersonation of somebody and her just getting a fucking tan. And then she goes over some apparently racist rap lyrics that involve Asian people, which I don't think was a big deal. If you're just making some stereotypical jokes, it's just freaking jokes. It shouldn't really be taken seriously. And then anyway, she also goes over slut shaming and making gender jokes and a bunch of other bullshit like that. I think the main thing is that Jenna just seems too nice and too compassionate and stuff like that, instead of just being stern with these people, which is why she's caving into the mob, as a lot of people like to say it, and that just also goes with a lot of other people and companies, instead of just being stern, which makes them part of the problem instead of part of the solution with these spoiled brats that are offended at illegitimate stuff. And she seems like a really nice person who doesn't deserve all this BS. So remind me what this has to do with George Floyd. Lastly, I want to discuss the armed St. Louis couple who were defending their house from protesters who broke into their property. Just to give you a backstory, there were protesters marching towards the St. Louis mayor's house on June 28th because the mayor supposedly was reading the addresses of people who wanted to defund the police on Facebook Live. So people were getting upset about it, and as they were approaching the house of the mayor, they broke a gate leading into a private street, and they were onto private property of the McCloskey couple named Mark and Patricia. There were verbal confrontations between the protesters and the couple. Some protesters threatened to kill them, murder the dog, and burn down the house. So the McCloskeys contacted the police. Since the police haven't arrived yet, the couple wanted to keep themselves safe, so they took out some guns and were pointing them at the protesters, but no shots were fired, however. So that must have been the end of it, right? No. You see, the St. Louis Circuit Attorney wanted the couple to be charged for waving weapons. She wanted them to be charged with a felony for pointing weapons at so-called peaceful protesters. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think people that are saying, "I'm gonna kill your dog, I'm gonna burn your house, I'm gonna kill you," yeah, I don't really think they're necessarily peaceful protesters, but you can think differently if you want. Alright, here's a video clip of what she had to say.
I am disturbed by the events that occurred over this weekend, where there were peaceful protesters who were met with guns and a violent assault. We must protect the rights to peacefully protest, and any attempts to chill it through intimidation or use of force will not be tolerated. Since learning of these events over this weekend, I've worked with the public and the police to investigate these tragic events. I will use every extent of Missouri law to hold individuals accountable.
Okay, so she clearly doesn't understand that self-defense is a constitutional right, and how she became the frickin' circuit attorney is beyond me, but then again, AOC went from being a bartender to a congresswoman, so I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. And I think the couple were called racist as well, which, I mean, I guess defending your house is now apparently racist. Even though he wasn't worried about the races of the protesters, he's worried about getting killed or harmed. Yeah, so now I don't know what we're supposed to do in the future when a criminal comes and invades our house. We can't call the police because they're abolished, and we can't even defend ourselves, so what do? Do we call Batman or? Alright, so I think that's it. Is there anything else though? Oh yeah, I also want to talk about kneeling for the anthem. Kneeling for the anthem has been a method of protesting since 2016, first done by the 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick. And what I think about this is I think it's disrespectful to kneel during the anthem because it's disrespectful to the flag, it's disrespectful to the country, and especially it's disrespectful to the brave men and women who had fought for us. And I gotta say, I'm even seeing a lot of Major League Baseball players kneel, and I'm actually pretty disappointed with the White Sox. I am a diehard White Sox fan, and when I found out there were some people kneeling during the anthem, I actually got really disappointed. Now, if everyone were kind of to do something before the anthem, like a little ceremony for Black Lives Matter, I would be a little more lenient on that. I normally wouldn't really prefer anything to be on sports, because I think it should just be a time where everybody comes together and watches a great game of baseball or a game of football or something like that. But I have no problem if you're doing something before the anthem. It's just when the actual anthem starts playing, you should stand up for the damn flag. It's unpatriotic. I think it's uncool if you don't. Well, guys, all I can say is welcome to 2020, where it's okay to burn down cities and loot, but it's not okay to defend yourself from violent protesters. And where syrup and other logos are offensive, as well as certain YouTube content, or where statues are being knocked down, where the police need to be defunded, and people kneeling during the anthem as well. I could talk about a lot of other things, but then I'd be here all day. What a fucked up world we live in. This has gone way too far.